Yo, it's Marc with the Fantasy Knockout Fantasy Football Show. Today is Tuesday, November 22nd. I'm excited for today's show. It is the Week 12 must-add players. Who are we looking at this week? Who's the flavor of the week for quarterback and defense? You can follow the show at Fantasy Knockout on any social media platform. Make sure to subscribe, whatever platform you're watching or listening on. And yes, we did it. Well, actually, you guys did it. So I want to say thank you very much. We got to that 100 subscriptions, hit that goal of mine. Thank you guys. Let's come up with a new one. I don't know, 1,000 maybe? I don't know. We'll see. Trade deadlines are coming up. If they haven't passed in your league already, they should be maybe this week or the next week. So look at your teams. See if you can upgrade your team in any way, shape, or form. Get ready for those playoffs. Let's talk some news.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the news.
News with views. So wide receiver Mike Williams from the Chargers. Oh man, he let me down big time this week. Head coach Brandon Staley said Williams, his ankle aggravated his high ankle sprain, but that it's not considered significant. Don't know what that means. Now we truly have to wait and see what we're going to get with him. While Keenan, he returned, he looked back to normal, even though he was kind of on a pitch count, but he looked great. Tight end Kyle Pitts from Atlanta. This is big bummer news. He was placed on injured reserve with his knee. He has torn his MCL, and that should require surgery, so he is most likely done for the season. Quarterback Justin Fields from Chicago. His head coach Matt Eberflus said that Fields is, quote, day-to-day with a shoulder injury, and it is non-throwing shoulder, which is good news, but we'll have to monitor him this week. Wide receiver Jamar Chase from Cincinnati. His head coach Zach Taylor was non-committal on Chase with his hip, returning this week. He should start to practice this week. We don't know if he'll play. Probably play next week, most likely. Running back Chase Edmonds from Denver. He's expected to miss multiple weeks with a high ankle sprain. So that leaves Latavius Murray and Marlon Mack at the top as the top backs there in Denver. Wait, you're asking about Melvin Gordon. Next bit of news, running back Melvin Gordon from Denver. He has been waived, so he is no longer there. He's done in Denver. So Latavius Murray's we're going to talk about him later on in the show, but he's going to be the back to own there in Denver. Wide receiver Jameson Williams from Detroit. He has been designated to return from IR. So the team has 21 days to activate him, and he should start practicing. He's going to be a solid receiver for Detroit. I love his talent when he plays. So they have, like I said, the 21 days. So that's 3 weeks before they have to activate him, and then he's got to practice and get on the field. So I don't know if he will be fantasy relevant, but if you have an available roster spot on your bench or whatever, you could stash him. But kind of silly to stash a player at this time in for towards the end of the season. Wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson from the Giants. He suffered a torn ACL this Sunday, so he's going to be done for the season. Running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of Kansas City. He suffered a high ankle sprain. He's expected to miss several weeks. So Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. Running back Joe Mixon from the Bengals. He left the third quarter with a concussion, so I would expect him to miss this week with the new concussion protocol for this year. Main event, the players add for Week 12. Guess what? There's no teams on bye this week. No bye week for Week 12, which is nice. We'll have a couple more in Week 13 and 14. So the players I have listed are in importance we'll go by position, but I have them listed in the importance of who you should target. So quarterbacks, if you need a quarterback, Deshaun Watson from Cleveland, he's about 48% owned. Tyler Heinicke from Washington, he's about 14% owned. And then Jimmy Garoppolo from San Francisco, he's about 62% owned. See if those guys are available if you need a quarterback. Some tight ends, David Njoku from Cleveland, he's about 73% owned. Dawson Knox from Buffalo, he's about 71% owned, most likely owned. Check to see if they're out there. And then Evan Ingram from Jacksonville, he's coming off the bye, he's about 36% owned. Some running backs, this is where we're going to probably focus a lot of our time. Rachaad White, he's the number one back I would pick up this week. He's out of Tampa Bay, coming back from bye. He's about 61% owned. Isaiah Pacheco out of Kansas City, he's going to get more and more involved there. Got over 100 rushing yards against the Chargers. He's about 64% owned. Samaje Perine, if you're in need for a running back this week, he's out of Cincinnati. He looked fantastic with Joe Burrow. He's about 9% owned. Damian Harris out of New England, he's about 63% owned. He looked like he's coming back in the mix with Stevenson. Latavius Murray out of Denver, he's about 24% owned right now. Jerick McKinnon out of Kansas City, 26% owned. And then James Cook, he's getting worked into Buffalo. He's about 17% owned. Some wide receivers, Christian Watson out of Green Bay. He's about 73% owned. He's probably gone, but pick him up. He looks like he's going to be Aaron Rodgers' new stud. Treylon Burks out of Tennessee. He's about 20% owned. He had a nice connection this week. Josh Palmer, I know I dropped him. Hopefully you guys did not. He's about 59% owned. He looks like he's going to still get some playing time there in LA. Darius Slayton from the Giants, he's about 51% owned with Wan'Dale going down. He's going to be the main guy there. And then Jamison Williams, we mentioned him earlier in the news. He's about 22% owned. Some streaming quarterbacks, if you're in need of a quarterback this week, hopefully not because nobody's on bye. But Marcus Mariota out of Atlanta, he's got Washington in Washington. He's about 43% owned. He's got a decent matchup. We're hopeful for his high upside rushing ability. And then quarterback on the other side, Tyler Heineke out of Washington. He's got Atlanta. This is a better matchup. He's about 14% owned. I like this for a streaming quarterback. It's kind of hard to trust him after his last two starts of barely, I think he put up like 6 and 7 points. So not great. Hopefully you don't need a quarterback to stream this week. Some defenses. Kansas City is my number one defense to start this week. They got the Rams. They're about 47% owned. The last 3 games, they have had 13 sacks, 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery, and they get a backup quarterback and a struggling Rams offense. And then Miami, they're coming off a bye. They have Houston. They're about 25% owned. The last 4 games, they have 8 sacks, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery. And again, it's Houston. I'm going to start any defense going against Houston because they're probably the easiest matchup to exploit for fantasy defenses. And then the New York Jets is the other team I'd be looking to pick up. They have Chicago this week. They're about 46% owned. The last 3 games, 17 sacks, 3 interceptions. They should bounce back after kind of getting embarrassed against New England last week. Plus, Fields is banged up too. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today. The next show is the Week 12 must-start players. Thank you for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe whatever platform you're watching or listening on. Please leave that rating and review. Really helps me out. All right. Till next time. See ya.